19 signed up.
And 129 are on.
Yeah.
Just remember, you may have more than one in a room.
And, right. Have you started the broadcast?
True. No. So, got to change presenter, right?
We should have it.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, let's get going.
Organizing.
There you go.
We there?
There
we go.
Yeah, we are. And
When I start broadcast, everybody's going to be on.
In present mode.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
all right. Good morning, everyone.
Let me hide this. Hold on. That work?
Not yet.
So give us just a few seconds. This is DPI. We're just making a few adjustments. We'll be starting in just a few minutes.
And someone's asking for the link to the presentation.
We'll get it.
We'll get you the link shortly. Yeah, I think somebody gets it.
All right, can you see my screen now?
We can see your screen. It's not in present mode, but we all can see your screen.
Okay. All right. There. All right, so good morning, everybody. Looks like we've got quite a few folks who have joined us. We do understand that there are going to be lots of coordinators who couldn't attend today due to schedule conflicts, but we are recording this, right, Jackie?
We are, yes, sir.
All right. So we'll share it via email and online after the webinar is over. Before we begin, I've seen a lot of questions out there and tickets come through. So we do want to say that the reason we didn't get the communication out prior to Sunday is because we weren't sure at the time if this would be reopened before Monday morning. So as soon as we got the memo Sunday afternoon, we did set this webinar up and get it out there to you, just to allow you more time to run these reports at the LEA level. There we go. All right. So I'm Justin Conner. I'm the new Power School analyst for DPI. And with us on the call, we've got Betsy Bogus, Rosalind Galloway, Lori Ivy, Doris Kitts, and Jackie Utter. And I think if it's okay with everybody, we'll wait till the end to answer any questions. Is that okay with DPI team?
Sure. It is. Justin, can you present your screen, though?
Come down. There's a present mode right next to the word share in the upper right-hand corner.
Come down.
Right under your email address.
Right under my email address.
Right above the home base sign on the right-hand side.
Where all the little icons are sharing. There we go.
Gotcha. Sorry about that.
Yay! Awesome.
Oh, no.
Lost you. Okay, there we go.
Sorry about that.
Oh. All right.
All right. So we do want to clarify that as of now, no data has been pulled. I've seen discussions in the Google group saying that they were hearing that data was pulled on February 1st. We've seen tickets come through the help desk, but we do want to assure you that that's not happened yet, and that's why we're meeting here today, is to get this process started. Lori, do you want to go over the 4 reports there?
I can. There are 4 total reports that represent the legislative mandate. The first one is class size, which encompasses all grade levels, all courses, all classes. Then there's the program enhancement teachers report, which is your arts, things like that. Then there's a class size exemption report, which is for the K-3. So if you're over on your class size in the K-3, you'll show up on this report. And then the final report is the LEA class size average. The first three reports are being pulled from your current schedule or the students' and teachers' current schedule. The fourth report is actually being pulled from the SAR data, which is what we're going to talk about today. The LEA class size average is only for the K-3 grade levels.
So we're going to wait for questions till the end.
Yeah. All right, so to begin the process, step one, we're just asking that all LEAs go in for all K-3 schools. So any school that has kindergarten, first, second, and third grade will go in and, well, actually, let me back up. Before you run that, we're asking, or we're recommending that you go in and export your fall data before you run the SAR.
Okay, Justin, they're not hearing you for some reason. So you're going in and out. Are you using your computer voice or using a phone?
No, I'm on the phone.
That's better. That's much better.
Okay.
You repeat the step one, please?
Yes. So step one, before you run the SAR for the K-3 schools, we are recommending that you go in and export the fall data. And that's only for the K-3.
Right, because once you run it, you will run it for current and you will lose the fall data.
And there are some schools that have already ran the SAR report.
Yes, and I did see some tickets come through asking to unapprove those. Once you've approved them, I don't think it's a big deal, right, Lori? Because in order to approve, you had to have run them first.
Correct. If they've ran it without exporting, you've just lost what you had for the fall, because it's over in the table. It just overwrites it.
Right. So then step two is once you have exported the fall data, then you'll go in and just run the SAR for the K-3 schools. So as I said a minute ago, that's going to be for any school that has kindergarten, first, second, or third grade. You do not have to worry about the high schools or middle schools that do not have those grade levels in there. And in the communication we send out, we will include instructions on how to do that, but I think most of you are comfortable running that report again. So we do need this done, and we know it's coming pretty quick, but we need this run for all K-3 schools by the close of business this Thursday. And then what we will do is go in and run it for any schools who have not processed that on Friday. Raj, do you want to discuss why we need this quick?
So part of what Power School is doing relies on this data, like the last report from the SAR tables. So we need that data populated with the most recent information for the spring. And then at that point, if we haven't, so if you haven't run it, we need to start going in and we'll start looking to see who has not run it and contacting those districts to make sure that their correct information gets included in this report. Yes, and this is only for K-3. So we're only looking at those schools that are that have grade levels K through K1, 2, and 3. If you have grades, say K8 or K12, you still have to run it. but we'll only be focusing on the data from grades K1, 2, and 3.
Right. So even though you don't have to approve these reports, we realize, because we've seen questions already, that you may have errors come up, but you shouldn't have many errors if we're talking about K3, since those are year-long courses. But if you've added things since fall, this is going to be cumulative data, so you may see some errors that you will have to go in and clean up.
So
But I do not think we're looking at much.
So a couple of things. If you are not able to run the report, so we had PowerSchool run a script to reopen the report, the SAR report. If you are not able to run that, so what you have to do is you have to unapprove it.
They can't, if it's already been unapproved now.
But if it's still sitting in the archived area, then you need to log a ticket so that we can have that reopened for you. Okay, Justin, sorry.
That's right.
Well,
and as of this morning, how many did we have, Lori?
It was like
200 something.
244 that's already ran it this morning. Not too bad out of over 2,600 schools, though.
Right.
And I will say that if you have a waiver from the fall, you don't need to reapply. Those waivers still apply.
Thank you. Someone did ask that.
Yeah.
Okay. So step 3, we went over. Should you have any errors, you will need to clean those up. If you need help cleaning those up, I guess we'll ask them to put in a help desk ticket. And we'll be watching for those to come through, because we want to help you get this done as quick as possible. And Jackie, I can't see the question, so
Yeah.
I'm going to start asking those.
Oh, we have quite a few.
A lot of them we've answered, several of them have been answered as,
So tried to run it for an elementary school, got past submission error. That's the one where you need to call and have it reopened. So call and put a remedy ticket in. So if the data manager ran and approved, do we need to submit a ticket to get it reopened, or does it not matter?
If it's correct, it doesn't matter.
And they wouldn't be able to submit it if it wasn't.
Well, no, they wouldn't be able to submit it if it had fatal errors. They wouldn't be able to submit it, but they need to check the data to make sure that it's correct.
So what about the ones that have already run it?
What do you mean already? I mean,
That's the question.
yeah.
Not sure what you really mean by what about the ones that have already run it? If you run it and you're looking at it and it looks okay, then you're fine. Right. I mean, if you have run it, you have lost access to your fall data. That's one thing. So they did log a ticket, but it hasn't been opened yet, according to Michelle at the help desk.
I am sending a note to them, telling them what to do with those right now. So we just need to, we had to get a ticket up to PowerSchool so they can reopen it.
How is the LEA class size average calculated for K3 in this last report?
All we did was whatever is ran off of the SAR report, we pulled from the SAR tables and just averaged it by your schools. All the business logic is within the PowerSchool report. If I answer that or not, but not in ours. We pulled straight from the tables.
Data is pulled.
And this is the way it's done in fall.
Yes.
So this process, folks, is the same. This data was pulled from the SAR tables in the fall. We're pulling them from the SAR tables this time as well. I do want to jump back. There are a couple of things. So exporting your data. When you go into your SAR report, you can choose the exceptions, and then it gives you a series of drop-down menus, and at the very bottom, it gives you the option to export your data. So you would need to export for each drop-down option you have. So there's like a class size summary, class size overage, class size. So for each one of those options, you need to export. And then you do not have to approve the reports. They just need to be run.
And what I'll do after this webinar, Roz, is I'll create a one-page document with instructions on how to export each of those and then run it again. And I'll send that out with the communication.
What is the timeline for instructions as our data managers are dual role? So the deadline is still, the timeline for the instructions, data managers are a dual role. So they're doing more than one thing, obviously. So
Right.
It has to be run by Thursday and reviewed and looked at by Thursday. And the export needs to be done.
If they haven't ran it yet.
Yeah. So you export first and then run for the spring.
So again, secondary schools don't have to approve. We just need you to run it for those schools that have grade levels K, 1, 2, and 3. You do not have to approve the report. You just need to run it. I believe so. I think this is, I think class size is everyone.
I'm thinking the early average one. That was one question. Do charters need to?
Charters will be yes. I think one of the questions were charters that are K-12, do we still need to run the SAR, correct? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
Because you have a K-1, 2, and 3 in your building. When is all the class size data being pulled?
It's due to the legislators February the 28th, so it's going to be prior to that. We'll have more information on the first 3 of those reports. Power School is doing those, and you will be able to click on a link to run it and view the data. We don't have all that information yet when Power School is going to be completed with programming to give you an actual date on when the data is going to be pulled. But it has to be done before February 28th.
What do you mean by exporting the data? So we did talk about that. You're going to export it through the SAR drop-downs under exceptions. I have a school that is all extend 1 students. Does their school need to be run again? I don't know what extend 1 means.
Special program. It's the ET. I don't think those are calculated in the
They're
LEA.
not, they're not, but, well, I guess my thing is follow the process, and if they get, weeded out through one of the other exceptions, they'll get weeded out at that point. Because what I don't want to happen is it doesn't get run, and then there's another question that comes up about something else that we don't know that they ran it, but we need to follow through the process and be true to the process. So if they get excluded, and also too, it's helping us to make sure that we're capturing the data correctly. So we need you just to follow the process, go ahead and run it, and then we should see them excluded through the process. Yes, and that, because if you don't get excluded, that tells us that there's some issue with the programming logic. Because we've got the list, and we've got folks on this side that are vetting that to make sure that those get weeded out. But also too, as part of what Power Schools want to deliver, you should see those excluded through your reporting. So we want to make sure that you run it, we follow that process, and at some point you will see that they're excluded.
Okay. Will we be able to run the SAR and review the data until the K-3 class size data is pulled on the 28th?
It will be pulled before the 28th because it has to be given to the legislators, I think, on the 28th. No?
We still have to, we've got we're waiting on the last piece of the financial data that has to come in. That doesn't come in until early March. But we need this part ahead of time so that we can put those things together.
So her question is, can she run the SAR and review until the 28th?
Or until it's been approved.
Yeah. So we're trying to get those firm deadlines in place. So one of our goals is to give you that opportunity to run it as many times as you can. This is a preliminary view. We still have the piece that Power School is going to deliver, that you can see the entire process. So again, we're trying to make sure that you guys are in that loop ahead of time. So we're still working to nail down the exact dates of when all the pieces are due. So bear with us. This is just a slight shift from the fall process as we transition it into Power School.
So Justin said export data, export fall data first. Some ran the SAR. What is the impact of that loss?
If you did not export your data from fall prior to now, and you don't have a copy, then you don't have your data files from the fall. We'll put our heads together here to see what we can do to help with that. We just don't have a concrete plan at the moment.
Not right now. Give us some time here.
Only lead teachers are being counted in the K-3. And the spring LEA class size average will be done the exact same way it was in the fall.
So a couple of things. So the question is, if the approve button is there, do we just leave it? You don't have to approve it. If it makes you feel better to approve it, you can do that, but you don't have to. For us, we just need the report run. And if the school does not have K1, 2, 3, do we still need to approve the SAR to move it out of the dashboard? Again, you don't have to approve it, but if it makes you feel better and you want it down at the bottom, you can do that. Right now, I would say don't approve it, because if you need to rerun it, then you're going to have to unapprove it to rerun it.
We may have answered this. If you pulled the data from the SAR and we ran it, it would be based on current data.
Yes.
If we had not run it, it would have been fall data, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
If a school has a section which is using the team teaching model, meaning there are 2 teachers in a classroom with 28 students, how is this tracked on the 4 report? On the SAR class size overage, some of the sections are showing up while others are not.
If they're lead teachers, they're being counted as lead teachers. But if it's a lead teacher and a co-teacher, only the lead teacher is being told.
If they're lead teachers, they will be counted. If they're co-teachers, they will not be counted.
The reports within PowerSchool will be the official polls. What you see and you review in there, we're not going to be putting it on the accountability secure shell this time.
When you say run and reviewed by Thursday, what time Thursday must this take place? COB?
Yes.
Close of business Thursday? Are corrections to be made in PowerSchool by Thursday the 15th? Correction.
We're asking any corrections to the SAR report be made by Thursday the 15th. Anything. They may not have fatals, but the class size is not correct, so they still would need to correct that.
Will these reports be the official polls? You did answer that, I'm sorry. Wasn't able to put the answer in there.
I would not recommend that.
So the question is, can we uncheck the unnecessary schools to make it easier to run? You said you do not recommend that?
I do not recommend that because
I think-
you're going to, for the fall, you'll need all of them.
I said not to do that.
Why wouldn't we need to export everyone since the class size report shows all grades in the first report? God bless you. Thank you. Why wouldn't we need to export everyone since the class size report shows all grades in the first report?
I don't understand that question.
So the export just exports whatever is there. So in the fall, you ran it for everyone, right? So this export is going to it's just going to export the data that currently exists. Okay, so to be clear, I said class sizes for everyone. I meant it's for public and charters. And that's what I meant by everyone,
And it will include all the classes,
not grade levels.
right, including what they now call enhancement specials, right? Because that seems to be a general question here.
With the enhancement and the class size
Then
report,
everyone
includes
means
all
public,
grade levels.
it means
All-
charter schools and traditional. It means all public schools. So thanks for that question.
Where will this recording of this webinar be housed?
Yeah, we'll put it in NCSIS like we do all the others.
Yeah, it will go on the NCSIS site.
There is plans for the other 3 reports to be viewed within Power School.
Okay, so the question is, just to confirm what was just stated, we, the LEA coordinators, will receive the data that was exported from SAR to review before submitting to legislators? Is that correct?
We will receive the data that was exported from the SAR.
No, you have access to run that SAR in your instance, so that's where you review it. And then that's what is pulled to go to the legislators.
But if you want to see what your data was prior to running it for this pool, you at the school level will need to pull your SAR data, export it, and save it, and then run your SAR for now.
I think what she might be saying is that Power School is going to be accumulating the data.
Mm-hmm. So Power School is going to provide a way that you can run those pieces, that you can see those files, and we're still waiting on some of that to be delivered. So we're not exactly sure what it's going to look like. We'll have more information about that, and as it gets clearer, we'll make you aware as we have that information. But the end goal is that you would have a way to look at this information prior to it being submitted.
But
this exercise, correct. Well, they could still rerun it like they would do the SAR. Okay. They would rerun it. They go in and look at it. They make changes. They rerun it. That's the end goal, that you have that similar process. Okay, so the SAR exceptions are the exports. Those are the SAR reports. Well, there's the SAR reports, and that's right. There are the SAR reports, and then there are the exceptions. So, to be safe, I would export them both. Yes.
Because you may have an error that excludes someone, and then you would have a copy of it.
How are dual immersion classes being excluded from reporting?
So aren't we using an attribute to identify those yet? We're not doing that yet, right? Okay. I don't remember the course code.
We need to look, because I know it's excluded at some point during the process. I'm not exactly sure where that happened. Obviously, flag question.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, if you're getting that cannot run after due date, log a remedy ticket.
Okay, so let's just go back and just catch up with a couple things. So one of the questions, what exactly is Power School delivering? So let's go back to the I guess, slide 4. So our school is delivering 4 reports: the class size, the program enhancement features, class size exceptions, and the LEA class size average. And what we're trying to do is give you an opportunity just to run what you can from the SAR table, so that you can just kind of look preliminarily and be able to compare to some degree once PowerSchool delivers.
And once again, we're putting nothing on the accountability secure shell. It's all coming from PowerSchool.
So there will be a way in PowerSchool for us to first 3 reports. Yes, and what they're going to deliver, yes.
And the K3 only applies to that 4th report, the LEA class size average. That's the only thing that the K3 applies.
Okay, let's see. Try to see what else. So the report programming logic is exactly the same as the fall process, correct? No changes. That is correct. And the data will not be sent through Secure Shell. You'll be able to see it through PowerSchool. So to verify, we want you to run the SAR if you have schools that have grade levels K1, 2, K1, 2, and 3. And no worries about approving it at the LEA level. You don't have to approve it, but again, if you're satisfied, you've run it, and you want to approve it, you can approve it, and that'll push it down to the other level. And I would say, and I'm looking at the folks in the room, that doesn't have to be done right now after the collection. After we've done what we need to do, you could go back and do that at a later point. If you just want to keep it open, rerun it, to look at it.
And then keep in mind, once you do approve, then you can't go in and unapprove it.
Correct. So maybe even better not to approve it at this point in time, just to
Right.
give you the ability to go back. Is this the time to make changes, if necessary, before the 2:15 run? Oh, yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
What must enhancement classes also comply with the class limit?
The enhancements, I don't think so. I think that's only for the K3 class size.
Yeah, I don't know. We can find out. I don't know.
Pretty sure it does it, but.
I'm just trying to make sure we get through as many questions as possible. Okay. What specifically is different from the fall process, approval process? There's nothing different except for the mechanism that is being delivered through. So in the fall, you had files delivered to you through Secure Shell. This information should be available to you in PowerSchool. And again, they're in the final throes of their development, so as soon as we have information, we will relay it to you.
The class size exception only looks at K3.
So the question,
I don't know where that was at.
So must enhancement classes. So the class size is only looking at
Class size
As
exception.
exception.
sorry. At the class size exception, and we're looking at
K3.
okay. So that same, the class size of specials will not be reviewed.
Will not be reviewed.
Yeah, will class size of specials be reviewed?
The program enhancement teachers?
Yeah, PE, art, music.
Yes. That's one of the 3 reports that Power School's delivering, or one of the 4.
It looks like there was an earlier question. Can you repeat? Class size comes straight from Power School. SAR will not be on secure shelf. That is correct. So the question is, where will the Power School report be located? As soon as we know that, we will let you know, because we have to tell you where to go to run them. So as soon as we know that, we'll let you know.
Do they see the reports differently from the LEA level versus the school reports? There's been a lot of questions about exporting at LEA or at school.
Yes.
Export it.
You need to export at school level.
Okay, so we probably need to say that out loud.
So you want to, when you're exporting your reports, you want to make sure you export them at the school level.
It would be, because as you look at it, you wouldn't know, if you're exporting at the LEA level, you wouldn't know the detailed information per school. Because all it gives you, from what I recall when I was stepping through it, it just gives you a file name, and it doesn't delineate, even at school level, it doesn't delineate, well, actually at school level, you're just doing it per school, so you would get that file per school. So the question here, will the new Power School reports be school level only, or will we be able to run them on the district level? We don't have an answer for that, but we can definitely ask that question.
So we're just reading through questions.
That's a great question. I thought I heard in the news that they are voting on class size today. Great question. So, yes, they are. However, what they're voting on does not exclude the reporting requirement. We are still required by law in HB 13 to continue on with the reporting. So even if they pass the thing today, we're still under compliance to do the reporting twice a year. Great question. Thank you. And Justin, we probably need to, I think probably need to add a slide in our deck on that one, because if we're sharing this out, that's a great point that we want to make sure that we continue to emphasize. that we are still required by law to do the reporting.
Okay, I'll get that added before we share it.
It will, so we've been working with our legislative liaison here in the building, and they have been using data to make their policies. So as they continue to look at this, they're asking for even more data. So again, this is imperative that we continue on this road to make sure that we are complying with the reporting requirements that's spelled out in the law. Yes. So the question is, are legislators looking at sections other than ELA?
The class size on your slide that you're viewing on your screen, that report looks at all courses, all grade levels.
So one of the things I just want to make sure that we understand, so PowerSchool is putting together the reporting that addresses 1, 2, 3, and it's not looking at the SAR tables. I just want to make sure we understand that. We're asking that you go ahead and run the SAR so that we can get the data set for number 4, report number 4. So that's why you don't need to run the SAR for the other grade levels, because they're addressing all those other things, all those other reports in a different way. You may be able to use, you might be able to use some of that data to validate. I don't know, like I said, you might. But again, the 4th report needs the data from the SAR tables, and that's why we're asking you to go ahead and run it for the K1, 2, 3, so that we can get the data set for that report.
Okay, so I know the laws for K3. Of the 4 reports that are eventually populated, the first report, class size, shows all grade levels. Why then are we just exporting K3 schools?
You're not exporting K3 schools. So when you export, it exports all of the information. So if you go into a school and you have grades K through 5, it's going to export all the data for that school. If you have a K8 school and you export, it's going to export all the data for K8, K12. So the export just exports everything that exists in that report/exception, report and exception.
Are the EC leads or co-teachers counted differently than standard leads and co's? Leads versus.
We're looking at the lead teacher. Doesn't matter what's in it, but if it's lead.
Great question. There are no exception reports listed at the LEA. Do we have to go to the schools to get that information? Yes, you do.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nothing we're doing at the LEA level unless you want to approve to move that down, right? Everything else is done at the school level.
Everything at the LEA level. How are EC classes being calculated in the formula?
How are EC classes being calculated in the formula?
They're included in the the number 1 class size report and the number 2 program enhancement teachers, I think the logic within Power School is excluding them from number 4, the class size average report, and I'm looking at Rosalind to verify that.
To find out.
Okay.
Let's take that one back just to verify.
Okay.
That's my understanding, but let's verify.
Okay, I know it's included in the number 1.
And that's what Ms. is saying. If you're having problems running your reports, please go ahead and get those tickets logged so we can get those up to Power School quickly. They're gonna process these quickly. That's why I say go ahead and get them in. We did some spot checking over the weekend, and we could see that it was working in several different areas. But if it did not work in your LEA, please go ahead and get that ticket in, and we'll make sure we get it adjusted and get it open.
What happens if you rerun the report after you make a correction?
It just replaces the data with the new data.
Just like it did in the fall, you reran it.
Yeah, so again, so if you're exporting, it's going to ask, well, exporting is going to save it to a file. So, I mean, you can do a print screen if you want. That's going to be the long, tedious way to do it, but it's going to create a CSV file, I believe, that has your data. So, by mere fact of the export, that's a saved document. It's an actual document that you can open up and you can look at. So we aren't exporting from the CC tables and sorting by school. Oh, okay, sorry.
I didn't see that one. We need to say it.
No, you're exporting from the state reporting tab, the SAR report.
Yeah, the report was open, but the due date was not extended.
Okay.
I think it's harder to extend the date.
Yeah, the dates
Yeah.
are appearing
Yeah.
to be the same. It's just opened
It's
again.
just open
Right.
so that you can run it past the due date.
Yeah.
Right. So, Sandy, that is true. The due date is not extended, but it is open. So.
And then there's a question, is it correct that LEA charter schools have to export all 6 SAR view reports and SAR exceptions for fall and spring? Again, if the school has already ran the report, there's probably no need to export the data because you've lost your fall data at this point. But if the school has not ran the report, when you export it, it's going to be the fall data. It's up to you if you want to wait until after we have submitted the data to legislation if you want to export the data for spring.
So one of the things that I'll take forward, and I hear the request that it would be helpful to be able to run this at the district level, and we agree. So that's something that I can follow up with Power School to make sure, because right now I'm not sure how that's being formulated, if they're looking at it from a school's perspective or a district perspective. So we'll take that question forward. I totally understand that, totally get it.
Did you already talk about this?
So, the question is, could we have a separate fall and spring SAR in the future to avoid exporting? Yes, that is the end goal. That is absolutely the end goal. And we will see that in the fall with our next cycle. But just, this is our interim solution to try to get through the spring collection. But we're also, it's probably going to be a separate collection that does not sit inside the SAR. So again, the goal is to have a fall and a spring, and that will come through your state reporting tab in PowerSchool in the future. So, Sandy, to answer your question, just log one ticket, and that one ticket should take care of all your schools. So if you've got, well, what we've done is we'll talk to Manish. Manish writes the script, and he'll take care of that. And just indicate if it's not running for multiple schools, indicate and let us know, and just do that in one ticket.
Funds, corrections, and DPI data pull from PowerSchool needs to be done by Thursday the 15th, but we won't see the first 3 reports on your slide until later.
Yeah, PowerSchool is delivering those other 3 pieces. So we're trying to do the best we can to give you some kind of preview, but also we knew that there was a need to have a data set collected so that the 4th report could be produced. Yes, how far we've come. So just to, I mean, Donna's comment is, at one point, way back in the day, Russell. Yes, we did do the SAR collection twice a year, so we're going back to collecting it twice a year. Yeah.
We showed his age.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the support center saying, yes, log only one ticket for your district since the tickets are dispersed among several analysts on the support desk. So there's support center saying, yes, please only log one ticket for your reopening and not a ticket per school.
So when will you be able to give us a timeline up to the DPI data pull? It'd be helpful to have these parameters to work within.
Agreed, and we're trying to get those timelines. And so as we get those things, we'll communicate them out as fast as we get them. So, and I'll emphasize too, if we're having problems getting your collections reopened, we're going to work with you through those. Because the thing is, I mean, if you can't produce it, then we've got to make sure that we've got things open on our end so that you can do what you need to do. So we'll continue to work through those.
The LEA class size summary still breaks down by school/grade. So wouldn't we just export that one report instead of each school?
The class size summary, that's the
Yeah.
one.
You just lose a lot of detail.
So while you can, I don't think you're going to get as much detail as if you do the other by school.
So again, like we said at the top of the top of the webinar, there were things that we didn't have all the right pieces to be able to communicate all of the different pieces. So we were trying to let you know that it was going to be reopened. And again, we're going to try to get the information as quickly as we can. One thing about that is we didn't know if it was going to be possible. So just bear with us, and we're trying to get out the communication and information to you as quickly as we can.
And it's not necessary to run the SAR at the LEA level after the schools have ran it. Just as long as the schools have ran the report, you don't need to do that at the LEA level.
And I will say too, from what I have seen, particularly with our larger districts, if you try to run these at the LEA level, it's going to kick off and try to run it every single school, and you're going to bog down your instance.
And it also runs the middle schools and high schools,
Yes.
which you don't need to do.
Yes. Yeah, so
Right.
that's true.
So that is true. So the statement is, if we approve the reports at the school level, they can be run again later should something arise that needs to be checked, even if we don't approve at the LEA level. That is true. So running them is sufficient. You don't need to approve, because then that does close things off.
Okay, trying to see.
And then we have a question. They joined late. The process is to export the 4 files first and then rerun the SAR for K-3 schools only, and finally exporting exceptions and reports. What you want to do, if the schools have not ran the reports, you want to export your data out, including the exceptions, then run the SAR for your K-3 or any school that contains grades K through 3.
And then wait for exporting that until closer to when you're done reviewing and things like that. Wouldn't the class size summary, the LEA, contain the same info? Yeah, so it does contain the same info each school, but again, you won't get as much detail.
You do need to make sure that you run the SAR by Thursday close of business. Data has to be in that table for the spring collection so that Power School can pull that data to put into a report so that you can view it at a later point before we send it to the legislators.
Okay, we're still looking through some questions here.
If you're a K-12 charter school, you still need to run the SAR again because you have K-3 in your school.
So there's a request for Power School to build these reports to generate each of these reports for all schools at the district level. It may not be time consuming for smaller, but larger.
Yeah. Yeah, we're already taking that forward. And it could be, so we're asking that question. It could be that that's what they are doing, but we just need to confirm that. So, did we do that? Confusion? So the question is regarding exporting from the LEA versus the school. And what we've said is that if you export from the LEA, you're going to lose detail versus exporting it from the school. And is that correct? Yeah.
And the reports listed on the slide are different than what you're seeing in Power School right now. The reports on the slide are the new reports, the ones that Power School will be delivering to you. You need to export whatever is on that state reporting screen under the SAR reports, if there's any exceptions, or under the SAR views.
That's good. Let's ask that one. Okay. So if a waiver was done for a course/teacher due to increased enrollment at that school, more students have enrolled since November. Teacher/course A has an approved waiver. However, teacher course B is now over the class size. Does teacher B need a waiver too?
We believe so. We will confirm that because I believe the waivers were per course section. Yes.
I'm interpreting contradictory responses. Please spell out a complete timeline and post for us before I have a conversation with my data managers and principals. Okay.
The only confirmed date that we have right now is that you need to rerun the SAR by close of business Thursday. We don't have any confirmed dates other than that.
Can you repeat what the program enhancement teacher report is?
This is your arts, music, PE, those types of classes.
Which report is it?
Number 2.
Program enhancement teachers. It's called program enhancement teachers.
Will something be sent that tells us what we need to do? After Thursday, yes, as we know more dates and times.
So Justin, you indicate you're going to do a one-pager.
Yes, I've made some notes. I'm going to update some of these slides and then put a one-pager with screenshots together and get that out this afternoon.
So if we can also include just the mini timeline for now, and then if we can keep this as like a running document and we can update, but also we'll make sure to include additional updates through our Friday bulletins. So the question is, will these new reports be available for us to run at any time throughout the year to audit ourselves in the future, or will they be available only during a certain time of the year? So the reports will be there. Of course, they will be available. They'll be opened up like right before they're due. So you'll have two time frames. Let us talk to Power School about the feasibility of being able to run it to audit yourself. I don't know what the impact of that would be and where this data sits. So that's a great question. We'll definitely take that back and explore that. But at the moment, we do know that they will be open like 30 days, 30, let's say 30, maybe 60 days prior to when they're due. So they're due right now in, I think, in end of September for the fall, and then end of February for the spring. So let us take that back. It's a great question. We'll definitely take that back and see what the possibilities are to leave it open for extended periods.
There's a question on here I don't understand. It says, thank you for I'm sorry, I don't believe my question. Sorry, I have ran a school and the information is not correct. I don't know what that means. Somebody asked that question.
And that may be one we need to take offline and look at it with you, because we're not sure.
Other questions? I'm looking. Take off that.
So this one. When I look at the SAR at the elementary school, the dates are showing submission date 9/2/17 and submission end 11/17/17. And there is the run and review option showing. Am I missing something? So we did not extend the dates on the screen. We just had Power School reopen it so that you could run it after the submission due date. So you can go ahead, if you have exported your data, so again, export the data before you run it, and then when you run it, it will update the data with update the collection with the most recent data.
And we suggest that you export the exceptions for your K-3 schools also before you run the report.
So,
Still reading, hold on, keep us going here.
Jackie, will we be able to compile this list of question and answers, so maybe we can put that out also?
Yes, we'll definitely grab this question and answer log, and you have your options of what you'd like to do with that, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
There's a question, it says, so it sounds like for this run, the new Power School reports will probably not be ready in time for us to review and correct prior to the data being pulled. The plan is for you guys to be able to review the data before we pull and send over to the legislators.
yes.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So,
And I'll include those details in our timeline.
right. So in full transparency, one of the things that we're trying to determine is the financial piece. So I think we have a dependency there. So we're working with our folks in school business to find out when that file is ready. So that's one of the pieces that we don't have, and we're trying to understand and get a firm response on when that will be ready, because that has impact on what's available. And of course, I mean, we can't send it over to the legislature until we get that file. But again, as soon as we have those dates, we will share those with you.
We need to clean up any data after we run, correct? Then run again until clean?
Yeah.
That would be...
Yes, for your K-3 schools. So we pretty much covered the questions.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't see anything that is new.
Okay. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. I will, as soon as we get off, make some changes to this slide deck and put that document together and send it out later this afternoon, along with some of these question and answers that we've seen a lot of during the webinar.
So this, the share that I gave to everyone that gives you access to this slide deck is going to stay open and available. So it is in the chat, and it was in one of those question and answers. It's the long one. It is not the abbreviated link. So you may need to copy paste instead of trying to type it all out. So make sure you have that available. Other than that, Justin will keep us abreast of what's going on. It appears that the exception report that the state gave us for class size doesn't appear to be available in Power School. Am I missing it, or does that function on the Power School folks once we've run it in February? The exception report that the state gave us.
This is true. It's not in Power School. It's not part of that SAR report. It will be part of the 3 reports or 4 reports that Power School delivers to us. The number 3 on the slide.
So Justin, if there are no
Okay.
more...
All right.
Okay.
Justin,
So we will we'll work with the help desk to make sure we're following up on these tickets as quick as we can, because we know this information, we need it, you know. And then I'll just look for that email, that communication with this information to go out later this afternoon.
All
And
right,
we'll keep you posted.
all right, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.